Hey there, Mandy Morris here. I am jumping on to a live to talk about something that is, I forget how important it is. And I think the reason is because it's like a thing that I'm living and breathing every single day. And I forget people don't know it. Oh, how silly of me. So today, we're going diagram style. Okay, so let me talk about this for a second. So you guys have heard masculine and feminine energy, right? Like thrown around all the time. It used to kind of turn me off because I'm like, I don't understand what masculine and feminine really even is. Now, backstory on this and why and how this lesson before I'll put the cap back on so we don't dry this thing out, because I have to tell you a story first. So years ago, before I created Authentic Living, before my life became something worth living, I lived in, I didn't know it. And if you had told me, I'd be like, masculine, like I'm not a dude. What do you mean? Because that's how ignorant I was to the understanding of masculine and feminine energy. And so I lived in my masculine. I was like the exercise for 2 hours. You're not good enough. Grind, get shit done. Hi, Rob. I love you so much. Oh. So I was like, rah, get things done. And I would work for 16 hours a day, 3 jobs. Even if I was so sick, I couldn't think. It didn't matter. It was the only way that I thought I could get ahead in life. Now, if someone had explained to me what, feminine was, I'd be like, weak, vulnerable, emotional, like I'm not into it. Now, take that forward. That was how I lived most of my life. It was from my programming. It's how, I saw really strong, independent females in my family, get things done and, get out of tough situations and so forth. So I was like, I will live in that space too. And then when I found out that there was a label to it, I was like, cool, well, I'm even fine with being in my masculine, whatever. Now, the problem was that everything that I wanted, everything that I thought I was going to be able to achieve by staying in my over masculine energy, which I'll talk about in a second of how I ended up breaking this down. But because of that space, I was ensuring that I would never get there. Now, a part of that was because I had tons of crazy rules. Some of my rules were like, if I ever want to make this amount of money or have this type of life, I have to choose this or that. So I was like, well, if I make this amount of money, I'm probably going to have to work all the time. And if I work all the time, then I probably won't have time for my kids, or they'll be mad that I'm not around. And if I'm not around, then maybe my husband would cheat on me too. I didn't even have a husband, this magical, unicorn husband that at the time hadn't even shown up yet. But I had all these perceptions of why it wasn't going to work. And a lot of those rules sat in my masculine energy of how I thought I had to be or what I thought I had to do to get where I was trying to go. But again, it was just causing for me, because it was from programming and trauma and incorrect rules, that I would just go, I would just run around in circles, right? So I think it's really fitting. I feel like with my backwards hat and stuff, and my hair is so dirty today, I'm dressing the part. So anyways, so I sat there, and this was, again, prior to Authentic Living being created, prior to my purpose work and so forth, but I didn't know it, but it was coming into fruition, but breadcrumb style, feedback from the universe style. And I met my now husband. One of his friends, she was this incredible energy worker, and she's like, your masculine, your feminine energy is all effed up, basically. And I was like, don't even know what that means. And she explained it to me, and then she did some energy work on me. And I saw in this visual, and this is where I'm going to kind of drop the lesson in just a second, y'all. I saw in this visual like a ballerina dancing, doing her thing, and then out of ignorance, I'm sorry, is it a male ballerina? Like a female ballerina, and then the male came and like swooped her up, and they did this beautiful dance together. And so that was like that feminine, masculine energy kind of moving together. That's how my brain could conceptualize it. I still had like a gender assigned to it, which now is obviously, I realize it has nothing to do with it. But that was, where I was at. And so I looked at that, it's 7 years ago now. I don't know how long ago that was. And through that, I noticed, because right after that happened, and also I realized it was kind of happening before, my masculine was like dying. I couldn't get anything done. I had no motivation to go to the gym. I had no motivation to work anymore. I used to be at the top of the company that I was working for, and I just couldn't get it right. And I was judging myself. I was shaming myself. I was freaking out. Like, am I going to be homeless again? Am I not going to be able to put food on the table? Am I going to be able to pay my bills? All that, but it would spiral me down. What I didn't know was that I was evolving. Now, I was fighting it because I would have never called it evolvement, but I was actually growing. I needed to bring that beautiful feminine into my reality so that I could pull in the information to create a business and understand intuitively what happiness was really going to look like for me, because I didn't live my life remotely happy. I just lived my life chasing things. So anyway, I want to do kind of this. I actually brought a whiteboard for y'all. And I have terrible handwriting, so listen to my words more than this actual diagram. But I like a visual, and then it keeps my brain kind of in place so that I can be more impactful for y'all. So we have the masculine, we have the feminine, right? Now, since I am a soon-to-be Hay House author, you guys have seen her book on the body, right? I'm sure you guys have seen those books. So what it's typically is that the left is feminine and the right is masculine. So this is going to be backwards for you guys. That's fine. Just go with me on this one. So my left, which is your right now, but keep in mind, feminine. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm going to do it on this side, actually. We'll try to make this work for y'all. So the feminine and the masculine, right? Can you guys see this? Are we good so far? Thumbs up. Okay, cool. Danessa's at the zoo with Xavier. Okay, so can you see how many folks I know that jump onto these? Okay, so masculine and feminine, right? And I hope that this is actually flip-flop for you guys perfectly. So what I found was that I thought that there was just 2 at that point. But what I found was there's actually 4. There is the lower level masculine and the lower level feminine. And what I found was that this was where I was living. First of all, we'll talk about that. But most of us live in one or the other, or we bounce between the 2. So let's talk about this for a second. We'll go up here. So lower level masculine, we talked about it for a second with me, right? That was 24/7 grind. And throw things up too. Once you guys kind of get the gist of this, or for my authentic lifers who've seen this before, throw some ideas up on the comment section. So 24/7 grind. Not enough. Angry. Shameful. Guilty, which could kind of go both ways, I suppose. Judgmental. Basically, this constant, I am not enough, and in order to be enough, I need to do. But do in an inauthentic way. Do in such a way that I will then become worthy of it, or then I will receive, or then I will be happy, then I will feel good, whatever. But do. And that energy, the intentional energy, comes from like this, like a shameful not enoughness. Now, the lower level feminine. This is what I typically hear. Lower level masculine, striving. I'm not enough. I have to do for the sake of doing. Beautiful. Thank you, Rebecca. So lower level feminine now. Let's jump into that, right? So with the lower level feminine, I personally perceived it to be weak, overly emotional, vulnerable, but in a bad way, like not a good type of being vulnerable was a no for me. You do not let anybody know your cards. You don't let anybody hurt you. Vulnerable. What else for lower level feminine? What do you guys think? Weak, overly emotional, vulnerable, lazy. I thought, can't get anything done. Blah, 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 blah. Now again, this is where I was living, and this is what I thought if I didn't do these things, I would become. And that's what the world told me. Here, let me turn this a little bit. That's what the world told me. Anytime that I thought that my feminine, again, although I didn't call it that at the time, was coming out, I need a man to be whole, beautiful Cherokee. Okay, so again, like that weakness, that we can't do it on our ownness, right? We're being lazy, we're being overly emotional. That's what people would tell me. Why are you being so emotional? Like, whoa, you're too much. Your emotions are chaotic. And I'm like, because I'm shoving them down all the freaking time. I am exhausted. So I rejected this part. Hugely rejected it, because I thought this is the one that's going to get me where I want to go. There's no breaks. There's no time to just sit and chill and take care of me. Self-care, what is that? I have to earn that. So now, in this epiphany that I had, I was like, this is just a part of the story. These are my personas. If you guys know my persona work, watch a couple videos ago. This is just like the fallacies in which I have lived in from my programming, from my trauma, from, whatever, from what the world has shown me I have to be, to literally, not even to like make it in life, although that was a hopeful goal, but to survive. I was totally in survival mode here. So that was kind of like, oh, well, you just have to be. But who wants to just be? Especially if being could cause for me to not be able to pay my bills or do all the primal humanistic things that I need to do to survive, right? So I realized that there was another part to the story, that these could be elevated. That the needs in and of themselves, the need to feel safe, the need to express, the need, whatever it was, could still be met and is an important need, but I was going about it in such a way that I was not whole because I was judging or rejecting a part of myself, or I was perceiving that I had to be something other than what I truly was. Now, when I say balance, I'm not saying 50-50, y'all. That's not always the case. It could be 90-10 one day, 60-40, whatever it is. Okay, so now let's go up to this. So the higher level masculine. This would be things, and again, give me some ideas here. Strong, supportive, of course, I'm drawing a blank. We just did this whole exercise in a big old event this past weekend. Strong, supportive, again, higher level masculine. It's like the doer, but in a highly evolved way. Now, I'll come back to this for a second because we have to loop in the feminine. So just a few higher level feminine. Creative, intuitive, loving, nurturing. Both of these, authentic. Different balance for all of us, right? Now, again, this is the beingness. But we're in the 3D human world. So we can't just do, nor can we just be. We need both. And what I noticed when I started creating programs, all of that creative, intuitive, like talking to my version of my higher power, which I usually call God or source or whatever, it was my higher level feminine that was finally coming through because I felt safe enough to let it out. Because I realized it didn't have to be weak and overly emotional and vulnerable in a way that made me feel unsafe or lazy, quote unquote. It could be creative, intuitive, those moments where I'm like, I just want to lay in bed instead of going to the gym. I'm going to be instead of do. Beautiful information would actually come through when I wasn't judging myself for being. So the frequency changed itself and then was allowing for all the letters are shown as an opposite. Oh my gosh, sorry y'all. I should have flipped the camera. Too late now. Well then I'll just talk, shall we? And then I'll redo that another time. So, I'm very prepared for my lives, as you can tell. I'm inspired and I gotta go on. And now I have to go see the horses in like 10 minutes. And my whole sales team is here, so we're gonna go have some fun. Anyway, so when I looked at that, I was like, holy crap, when I sit there and I don't judge myself and my intentional energy is pure to be when I feel like I need to be, to do when I feel like I need to do, the outcome is completely different. I'm not being lazy. I'm resting and allowing for my energy to reset. Or I am allowing for myself to get into an intuitive space. Or I'm breathing for a moment to know what's going on. And then I can take that intuitive, beautiful stuff. This is literally how all of the programs I've ever created were created. Was in my higher level feminine. I pulled that information in, but hello, 3D world, right? I'm still human in some ways, at least. I have to do something to bring it out into the world, to serve humanity. I can keep it in me, and frequency alone is wonderful. What a great gift if I'm embodying all of that. But, for whatever reason, my higher power was like, nope, you're gonna talk about it. You're gonna give it to the world the best that you can. So instead, I pull that information in, and then I look at my higher level masculine and I say, all right, let's do this. Let's bring this into the world. The more humanistic pieces, like, do I gotta write, some copy for an ad? Do I need to figure out how the heck Kajabi works? Thank goodness my team does that. I still don't know. But then I gotta put those videos, I gotta go out there and film, what just came to me. I gotta talk about it with people. I gotta write the book, whatever it is. But as you can see, one without the other is incomplete. But I, again, was thinking for so long that my lower level feminine was the only feminine and my lower level masculine was the only way. And neither were true. But both of those had needs. I was in my lower level masculine because I didn't trust people, because I had been hurt, because I perceived, which I don't think is totally a wrong perception, but I went about it incorrectly, that relying on people is dangerous. And so I stayed in this sad little bubble of my lower level masculine thinking that this is the only way to do it. This is the only way to be safe. So my need of being in control, which was a trauma response, and feeling quote unquote safe was to stay in that space. But the reality was, although that need of safety is very important, I could meet that need in a more elevated way. Because who doesn't want to feel safe? But what I thought safety meant, and more importantly, how I thought I needed to go about achieving safety, was completely incorrect. And the same thing with our lower level feminine. We're sitting there bawling our eyes out in bed, or we feel really weak or chaotic, or we just got dumped because we're overly emotional or whatever. Unconsciously, or maybe consciously, we're like, we reject that part of ourselves. We reject that. But what is that need? For me, when I would get to that point where I was just bawling my eyes out, it's because I had suppressed it for so long. I had so much unhealed stuff. And so my deepest need was maybe to be heard, to be understood, to be unconditionally loved. But if I sat there in judgment of myself, or thinking or calling myself weak or chaotic or whatever, then I was staying in literally a vibration, or if it feels better for you guys, a mental state that was ensuring that the neurohormones that I was releasing wouldn't allow for me to get there. But really, that need, again, not bad. Expression, hello, how could we not as humans want to express? But we have to go up to that higher level feminine and say, I will express with solidity, with like a centeredness, at peace. That would be more of the higher level feminine stuff too. At peace, right? That could be higher level masculine too. But that feeling of connection to my higher power, connection to myself, that happens in that space. And that's really what I'm looking for. I just don't know how to go about it. And I get so stressed out or so lost in it that I just have to explode. Well, I can be proactive about that moving forward. I can say, what are my deepest needs? When do I jump into my lower level masculine or jump into my lower level feminine, either by choice or unconsciously? And then I go, let me take a couple steps back here and be like, why did I come into this place? Why am I here? What made me choose to go to this, tactic of survival, if you will? What's my need, right? Again, persona work technically. What is my need that I have? And how can I change that need in such a way that it is actually met? And the process in that of, I always say like elevate. We have to elevate how we do it. Does this resonate? Does that make sense? So yeah, I wanted to share that with y'all. I think I'm getting, someone's texting me about my Facebook Live right now. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I have no idea. So to wrap all of this up, for those of you who just jumped on again, because I was kind of all over the place, because this stuff excites me. And also I maybe had a little bit too much coffee. Normally I had like 2 sips, and today I had like 5 to 6. But ask yourself right now, this is the takeaway. This is how we'll do this. I never know how we're gonna go about this, but that's the intuitive, fun pull of it, right? So ask yourself right now, do you dominantly live in your masculine or your feminine? And we'll just talk about lowers, because that's, if you're in your higher, you're good to go, right? But what causes you to go into your lower level masculine or your lower level feminine? And you might be like, I am always in my lower level masculine. Like for me, it was like maybe 15 minutes of every week I was in my lower level feminine, having a quiet cry and then getting back to it. You know what I mean? Because emotions were so unsafe for me. Emotions meant that I would probably go totally off the deep end and then I wouldn't be able to, again, get things done. That obviously wasn't true. I did need to heal and, figure out why I was blowing up, but those expressions were very much needed. So again, asking yourself, how am I typically getting triggered into each one? Or which one do I dominantly live in? Or what makes me, again, go into each one? And so again, if you're in your lower level masculine, you're probably like distrustful of other people. You think you're independent, but really, again, it's a trust issue. You think you can do it best yourself. You're controlling. There's a difference between being in charge versus, being controlling. There's a balance in all things. Are you in that space? Do you guilt and shame yourself? I remember, okay, I'll tell you a really quick story too, just to kind of bring this forth. So again, I lived in my lower level masculine most of my life. It's what gave me my six pack. It was, which I do not have anymore, lovingly so, but it was what I would work 3 jobs for, what I would go to school, like push through my master's in, get my PhD, blah, 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 whatever. I dropped out of my PhD, by the way, do not have it. Also by choice, because I realized that it was not healthy. It was from not enoughness. And so with all of that energy though, and this is specific to like the exercise piece, it's very specific. When I moved from Dallas to Laguna Beach, now at this point I was awake, if you will, you know, a beautiful, beautiful life. Authentic living was created. It was just as usual growing like crazy. And I decided we live on the beach now. Like I'm ready to get a rockin' body again. I think I'm ready to step back into that because I really stepped away from, I felt like at least I stepped away from fitness for a couple of years. And, you know, thank goodness for, you know, yoga and Pilates and trying different things that were a little bit more nourishing to my soul and getting out of that masculine, which for me, my association was weightlifting was my lower level masculine. That's just me. I'm not saying that that's a blanket statement. So I was like, no, I'm ready for that. And so I got this personal trainer. She was incredible. And I actually was pregnant at the time, but I didn't know I was pregnant. So that might have been one of the reasons I felt a little weaker. At least I'll blame that. But I was sitting there doing a squat and I had, you know, the barbell or whatever it is over me. And I couldn't get up. You know, I couldn't finish that. And she would kick my butt, but I couldn't finish it. And all of a sudden I was like, where am I going to pull this motivation from? And like clear as day, I told myself, I hate myself. And boom, I finished the squat. I quit personal training that day. Now, that wasn't anyone's fault, but it triggered an old part of me. And I mean, let me tell you, like every part of that old part of me came flooding in. And it was so cool to heal it and to understand it. Now, again, so fast forward, you might be like, you know, in my lower level masculine, I think that I have to do all of these things to get into these certain spaces. And now asking yourself, are you in your lower level feminine? Do you feel, or do people even tell you like you're overly emotional, you're lazy, you're not doing anything with your life, you're, you know, you're living in la la land, you're floaty, whatever? None of those things are wrong. There is a need. So as you figure out which one you're in, what gets you there, so what triggers you into each space, we want to dissolve it, right? So we need to ask ourselves, what is the need we have when we go into that space? Control, safety, da-da-da-da-da. And then this last piece, we ask ourselves, how can I meet that need proactively and in a healthier way so that I'm not shutting myself off emotionally? Because let's say that you're like, I want a soulmate, but then you're like, I can never be in my feminine or my masculine because this, you know, whatever. Well, then your energy might not be the match for the soulmate yet, right? So we just have to shift things around and get authentic. We got to elevate it all so that everything that we do desire is already on that reality, that vibration, has that, you know, mental capacity, and then we can handle the blessings that come through. So are you in lower level masculine, and let me know, or lower level feminine, and how can you elevate that, meet those needs that they both have, and instead of feeling, even though I know this is backwards now, instead of feeling shameful, guilty, judgmental, weak, overly emotional, vulnerable, lazy, you could be like, I'm telling myself that I'm lazy, but I'm actually resting and I'm nurturing myself. Or I'm telling myself that I'm overly emotional or that I'm weak, but really I have this creativity that's coming through me and I just don't know how to bring it forth. And the same thing with the masculine. I am feeling guilty and shameful, but really I want to feel strong and I want to feel supportive to others or to myself. How am I going to do that? There's my husband. Okay, yes, we gotta go see the horses and do a bunch of stuff. Okay, so that was it. Masculine, feminine lesson. Let me know if that all made sense, and I will be much more succinct, and I will also do another one someday where the camera isn't flipped funny. Cool? Okay, in case no one's told you today. I love you all.